Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back. It's week 2 on the Wandering Earth truck. And I don't know exactly where to start today. First of all, had to do a little bit of mowing today because the yard needs it, but I didn't want to kill myself doing it all at once, so I'm easing back into it. Went to the hobby store, the store where I bought the kit. I was able to find some microsols, so thank you very much. I will be able to use this on the remaining decals for this. And I picked up some Vallejo snow weathering because that's a big part of the look of anything from the Wandering Earth, is that it be snow covered. And while I was there, I talked to Brian, the man who runs the shop, Hangar 18 in Cary. If you are in the Triangle area, you ought to check it out. It is the best hobby shop around. And I brought up the question that was posed from my comment section on the last week's video, and whether or not this is a factual model, a factual vehicle, or whether it is a deformed or super deformed version of a factual vehicle. And he had the same thought about it that I did. It's like, well, it doesn't say deformed anywhere on the box. He has other Meng company kits on in his store, and everything that he has that is deformed or super deformed says so very, very clearly on the box, and even has like a Tune brand or things like that. So we were basically coming down to the point of whether or not this was a deformed kit, based on the fact that, you know, the deformed kits that he gets from Meng clearly say so, and this does not. But then I showed him the comment online that I got online, and then I showed him the picture that was posted online. And while we agree this is a squashed version, and it is deformed, it didn't meet what we would call deformed because it wasn't comically deformed, if that makes any sense. And he showed me an example of a battleship that was comically deformed, clearly meant to be a deformed version. And we both agreed, yeah, that's deformed, I get that. But why is, and it got to the point where he feels like he was sold a bill of goods by Meng, that he was not ordering in good faith what he thought, or he did not get what he thought he was ordering in good faith. So we're going to see where that goes. But be advised, anybody who's thinking about picking up this kit, it is not accurate to the movie. It is a deformed version of the truck from the movie. And you can see it, like I said, it's not comically deformed, but it is deformed. And I'm of two minds about finishing it now, because I feel like I was rooked. I feel like I was snookered into buying something I didn't want. And I'm going to do my best to finish it, but I am definitely going to give Meng models a pass from now on when it comes to taking their word for anything. But as I said, I was able to pick up some microsols, so we're going to try that on all of these hubcaps. Now the wheels I've got painted, they have a red rim insert, and that's handled with a decal. And this is a good opportunity to see how well the microsol is going to pucker in around all of these details. And that will still give me a good amount of work done today. Now you can see, I don't know how to put this in the lights, maybe you can see it. The decal did suck down around all of that surface detail. Now it's been the whole weekend since, I did this on Friday and here we are on Monday. So it's been a whole weekend, but I'll be darned if they didn't pucker down around all these decals just fine. We'll see how this goes with the rest of these. Good morning and welcome back. It's Tuesday and we're continuing work on the Wandering Earth cargo truck. I have to tell you, finding out that it was a distorted version or a deformed version and not the actual thing kind of freed me up a little bit, because, you know, I don't know, I got this mental block now. If it's like, if I'm not building the actual kit or what it actually looks like, why am I spending so much time on it, or why am I even worried about this? I'm not saying that there isn't a market for deformed kits. Don't get me wrong. This is what I would call partially deformed, because it's not comically deformed like you would normally see. I went on that rant yesterday. I'm not going to do it again. But it's freeing me up to say, you know, I'm not going to be that particular about it then. I have gone around it today with a dry brushing round of a silver chrome-ish color. It's actually the Model Air Chrome from Vallejo. It's thick enough that if you put it out on a palette and dry brush it on, even though it says Model Air, you don't have to airbrush it. And a little bit of white. And I'm having some fun picking up some details. You get that light on it. So, you know, you just hit the top edges, and it brings out some nice detail. There's a layer, an underlayer of washing that I want to use on the undersides of things that might be a combination of a rust and a petrol spill and some engine grime, that kind of stuff, to give it a good undercoat of stuff. And then I started playing with the snow, and I'm going to declare a snow day. This is the Vallejo Environment Snow, and I just put some on my finger and just started touching it around the tops of things. I gotta say, I really like how that looks. I've never experimented with this stuff before. I think I've added a significant tool to the arsenal as far as weathering and making dioramas and stuff. I could think of several kits that I've built before this would have really looked nice on. So maybe, you know, it's not a complete loss. It's a learning tool. It's a test bed. I tried it on one of these tires. I just have to find out which one it was. Yes, you can see just a little bit of touch of snow on the tires, because the snow on this kit is basically the you know, 90% of its paint job, because the snow on everything was such a predominant feature in the movie that I'm not even going to get into the science of. I commented last week that it made me long for the heady days of the gritty realism of Space 1999, when it comes to just the audacity of strapping, you know, a few thousand rockets on the side of the Earth and shoving it out of orbit. Ironically, and it was not planned this way at all. Last week I was working on the tiny Discovery, the 350 scale Discovery, and started working on this. And Jupiter features prominently in both movies, both 2010 and Wandering Earth. And in the Wandering Earth, Jupiter is the villain. It's the main bad guy. They have to move the Earth, and I think that they had, again, I'm only going by the subtitles, and they may have lost some subtle description of the nuanced intricacies of the plot, might have gotten lost in the subtitling. But basically, they're driving the Earth, and they're going to use a slingshot around Jupiter to get enough momentum to get out of the solar system, because the sun is expanding and they need to find a new home. And something goes wrong, as is wont to happen, and they find themselves being drawn too close to Jupiter, and the mass of Jupiter starts sucking away the atmosphere of the Earth, and it looks like the Earth is going to crash into Jupiter. So they get the bright idea, well, maybe if we just light Jupiter on fire, it'll push us out. And the explosion itself will, so they they decided to concentrate the fire from the engines and ignite Jupiter's atmosphere with it, and maybe the force of the explosion will push the Earth away. I won't ruin the ending for you. It has to be seen to be believed. But I found it ironic that I was working on two things where, you know, you can go your whole life and not work on any model that has anything to do with Jupiter as a planet. And then you find yourself working on two kits the same week that have that in common. Life is pretty ironic sometimes. I don't know, what do you think? Doing a bit of snowing on top of everything. It's kind of the twisted sister of my normal weathering, because this would all be sitting on top, as opposed to oil and grease and grime that would be running out the bottom. So everything where there's a ledge where snow might accumulate is where this needs to sit. This could go like most other types of weathering, where you could easily run amok with it. So I'm trying to keep my my muck in balance. I think this is one of those deals where you give it a pass and then you walk away from it, and then you come back and see if it needs any more. Because I don't think it's going to be an easy thing to remove. It's always easy to add more, but what happens when you try to take some away? We're going to find that out. I'm still trying to figure out what is the best brush to apply this with. It's not a wash or a stain where you can use a fine line, long-haired brush. And it's more like a dry brushing technique, but you don't want to get, and you're pouncing on top of it, but you don't want to water your brush down too much, because then I'm afraid it would just turn, well, I don't know how it would turn. I haven't used it enough yet. Okay, we're going to let that sit and then decide what we think about it in the morning. I'm not afraid to put some on the windows, particularly on the bottom sides of the window ledges, because that is in fact where the snow does accumulate. Just think of your snowy windows at Christmas time and all of that, how it accumulates in the around the mullions and stuff, around the cracks and crevices. Now I'm taking a very damp brush here and a Q-tip to try to clean some stuff up. Oh, I like that. I like how that's turning out. So yeah, I can clean some of it back off. Okay, well, like I said, we'll let this sit, and then we'll see how we feel about it when we come back to it in the morning. I do like this frosting, how it's looking on the cab back here, because I think it's because there are less lines, and the lines that are there are more distinct, and it looks more natural, I guess is the word I'm thinking of. But something like that, that's not too shabby. That's not too bad. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. We're coming up on the final few days, the final day or two of this cargo truck build, and it occurred to me this morning out of nowhere. I've been an idiot. You got to put cargo in your cargo truck. So I went out to my stash of landscaping stuff that I still had since whenever I work on a base that I want to make some sort of little diorama. I have this stash of aquarium stones and other not landscaping, but model railroad environmental stuff. You saw me work on the Valley Forge from Silent Running with all that kind of stuff. Well, I had a lot of that stuff left over. So I decided to fill up the back of the cargo truck with some stones. Now relax, it's not all, 100% stones. It's like 92% of it is styrofoam up to about here, and then there's a thin layer of some of these pink rocks, aquarium rocks, and then some gravel, some railroading gravel on top of that. And I've been dousing it with different adhesives to get it to all stick together. And it's mostly doing that. It needs to dry yet. I've used some spray adhesives. I've used the old watered down glue trick. I've used the scenic cement and alcohol spritzing to get it to dry. So that's all percolating in the background. I've snowed it up a bit. Put some winter weathering on that. I've got the last bit really to do is to attach the tires. I'm going to let that dry. I will paint the pink rocks. Don't worry about that. So they will no longer be pink. So I'm playing with the cab. And I'm snowing it up. And I am then greasing it down and all that kind of stuff. And still wondering about the dimensions of things. And maybe thinking in the back of my head, because, I can't think in the front of my head. Thinking in the back of my head that this truck is, it's number 373. Well, maybe it's not meant to be the one in the movie. It's 373. It's something from the same universe, but not the exact one. So I've pulled up some references, and by references I mean a screen cap of the truck that the heroes drive in the majority of the movie. Okay, this is a screen grab of the movie. That is, if you'll notice, CN 373. Same two flags here, same number, same everything from the model. And you'll notice two things that are here that are not on the model. The model makes no attempt to put in a rear view mirror. And the model has 3 windows, 2 wide ones and a narrow one in the center. Well, a quick pan across here will show you 373, same 2 flags, no rear view mirror, and only 2 windows, a larger one and then a narrower one. Now you could say, okay, we've been through this before. This is a deformed version, but still, in a deformed version, you could still have 3 windows and, squeeze them together, and you could still include the mirror. I'm coming to the realization, as painful as it is, that Meng just doesn't care that it's that accurate or not. Of course, there's no indication of the side view mirrors and being on the illustrations or any of that kind of stuff. The windows on the sides don't necessarily match the configurations as the actual one in the movie. So we're going to take this as a model of a truck inspired by the trucks in this movie. And we're not going to worry about it anymore. So therefore, all of my OCD relative to trying to make this thing look accurate, it's out the window. As long as I capture the theme of it, I think I'm good. And again, from some careful rewatching of some scenes in the movie, the people in this movie are about as tall as these tires. So these are massive trucks. If the person is about that tall, there's a ladder and an elaborate entrance. It's more like a sand crawler as far as how small the people are next to it and getting up into this cabin. Here's a shot that shows you how big a person is and how big the tires are. So, and again, how long of a bed the trucks actually have. I don't want to get in trouble with the Chinese government, so I'm not going to run any video on this. But here's a depot that shows how long the trucks are. And this is the shot that reminded me, hey, I should put some rocks in mine, idiot. Better than trying to carry that thing around with I could do, some of this really intricate, elaborate, empty cargo weathering, or I could just fill it up with rocks and call it a day. So I think calling it a cargo truck and not putting any cargo in it is dishonest. So I'll go ahead and do that. But you can see the window configurations here and here. I really like this elaborate control system with the ball. But you can see everything pretty much is covered in this snow, at least in this beginning of the movie. There's a long version of how big the trucks are. Okay, so I am wrapping up what I can do on this cargo truck for right now. The bed of it is on the back deck, and it is drying in the noonday sun. Once I get the glue that's holding the rocks down dried, I can paint that. But really, I'm kind of stymied at this point because I'm done with what I can do. And I've got a couple of days left in this week, and I was looking through the stash, and I'm thinking, what can I work on that I could probably knock out in the next couple of days, 2.5 days, and finish out the week. And I came across this thing that I've had in my stash for a bit, and I wanted to go ahead and do it. It is the Lotus Super 7 Series 2, not a deformed vehicle, a very accurate and lovely Tamiya kit that, 90% of the world, if they bought this kit, the reason that they bought this kit was so that they could make Patrick McGowan's car from the prisoner. Not his name is number 6, but he is not a number. He is a free man. And in his private life, before he was taken away to the village, he drove this Super 7 Series 2 Lotus. And it features prominently in the credits every week. And I think it only showed up in a couple of episodes. But it made an impact. Now, of course, you're not going to see any of the card 120C license plates in the package, because then you get into licensing territory. So we're gonna make do. Obviously, you cannot copyright the actual car. I mean, you can, because you'd have to get the Lotus license, not necessarily the prisoner license to do that. So Tamiya has done a very good, very accurate reproduction of the car. I'm going to paint it up in the colors of the prisoner mobile, and we're going to go from there. Now, obviously, this is another car model. I'm trying almost to my fill of car models, trying to get them out of my system. Believe me, I've got a big spaceship coming in. It's incoming. Hopefully in the next week or so, it'll be here. And I will be delighted to go getting back to, the depths of space and doing what I'm more comfortable with. But this excursion into cars, I've been kind of easing my way back in, I guess. Now that I think about it, I guess I have been easing my way back in, because I started with the cartoons and the flat out wacky racist cartoon cars. The next one is this truck from Wandering Earth that is a deformed, so it's kind of a cartoon truck. It's deformed, it's not accurate. And then we're going to go into this very accurate Lotus. So I think I'm easing my way back into the world of accurate models. I've got the parts, the trees also out on the back porch. I hit them with a black primer. And because a lot of the details on the sprues, on the trees, are meant to be chrome or silver, and it's better for me to go ahead and hit them with a black primer, so when I paint the silver over top of it, it will stand out better. So what I really need to do at this point is to round up some English Racing Green for the body and yellow for the nose, and some red for the interior. But other than that, we're ready to go. Okay, so the cargo, the truck bed, has had enough time to dry, and now it's time for the depinking. And I'm not really interested in repainting every rock, but I do want to knock out some of that pink, so it should be more of a brownish, dark brownish, blackish UGG color. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of these different Tamiyas into the airbrush and kind of mix them in place. And I'm including the rubber black, which is kind of a little bit bluer than a NATO black. I've noticed that if you tint that, it tends to go to the blue side. So I'm mixing all these into a nice basic rocky brown earth color. Close these up and put a first layer of brownishness on it. There we go. Thrilling, isn't it? People always say, why do you cut away when you are painting like this? And it's like, because it's boring to watch. Doesn't really accomplish much. And, you know, if you're trying to keep your video length down, this is the kind of stuff that you edit. Like, you know, this is editing 101. Get rid of the boring stuff. Here you go. Doesn't look so much better now that it's all one color. We're going to let this dry. I'm going to put some snow on top of it. Yeah. Looking very good. Welcome back to Lou's House of Color. I'm really happy with these two. This is, of course, the British Racing Green on the Lotus, and this is the mud color of the rocks in the bed of the Wandering Earth truck. I want to do some dry brushing over that just to lighten or to put some highlights down, and perhaps even some washes to fill in. But yeah, I'm very happy with how that turned out. And put some snow on it, and snow on the roof, fire in the attic. No, wait a minute. What's the old saying? Just because there's snow in the roof doesn't mean there's not fire in the furnace. And I say no, but it does mean there's a lot of dead air in the attic. So here we go. I'll let that dry. It's been sitting outside all day, so we'll let it breathe for a bit. Okay, one last thing before we close up for the evening, and that is to put the snow upon the dirt and the rocks and the rubble. And then we will pretty much call this part of the truck a finished thing and pop it onto the rest of it. So the whole thing ends up looking something like this. Let me pull these other parts out of the way. Ends up looking something like that. I think we do one last pass of greasing and griming tomorrow and call it a done thing. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday. It's a gateway to the weekend. And we're continuing work on the Lotus, having, I think, finished. I'm just looking at myself. And yes, my gut is getting too big. But look at this. Yes, there are stains on the shirt. There are paint stains on the shirt. Let me take a minute to tell you my theory about that. If you're not getting paint on your shirt, are you really an artist? Are you really a model maker? I'm about to say artist, because you know, back in art school I was the same way. You got to get into it. You got to throw yourself into your model making. If you are so afraid that you are going to get a little speck of something on you, then oh my goodness, you know, get the gloves and the mask on. Now that does not mean to say that you shouldn't be careful if you're working with, you know, chemicals and stuff like that. That's just obvious. But on your day-to-day, workaday world, working with acrylic paints, I don't work with enamels anymore because of the fumes and the cleanup and all that. If I can't do something with a with an acrylic, then I generally don't do it. Now the exception to the rule, if I need to use an enamel out of a spray can, then I take it outside and I've got a respirator on, and I don't film that, so that's why you don't see it. And obviously it's tougher to talk through a mask, so if I'm doing just a little casual spraying here, I'm not wearing a mask when I do that. But if I have got the, let's say I'm working with all clads, or I am doing something that's a little bit more elaborate in spraying, or something that's going to take a lot of spraying, then yeah, I do that. I usually shut the camera off when I do that, and I put the mask on, and I go about my business. But if you get a little bit of splash or splot from cleaning an airbrush, or accidentally you cross yourself with a brush, that's going to happen. That's called living in the real world, and I normally advise against that, but sometimes you have to. So yeah, I got a stain, and the secret is, don't wear a shirt you're afraid you're going to get messed up. If you're so afraid, then wear an apron if you have to. I know, because I am such a klutz, I know that if I wore an apron, I would trip on it, or I would stand up and pull myself over on it. There are people who will, if they're working with very small parts, I've seen them do this. They'll take an apron and they'll actually tack themselves to the table. So if anything falls, it will roll this way and not, onto the floor or anything. Now, I know me, and if I was tacked to this table, the minute the phone rang or something, I would jump up and I would jerk, everything would go flying. So work the way that makes you comfortable, but don't be so afraid of getting paint on yourself. That's why they make, soap. Got to a point where I think we are finished with the Wandering Earth truck. I've got snow on it. Yesterday I put the gravel in the truck. I've got all the snow on it. I'm not going to make any sort of elaborate base for it, so it's done. And I'm today turning my attention to the Lotus, and the idea is to paint it up as if it were the number 6. I can't even call him number 6. He is not a number. He was a free man. Patrick McGowan's character in The Prisoner. In his secret agent life, he has this Lotus. I can get it built. Now, whether or not I'm going to have time to get the license plates done this week is going to be another trick. But I think we're in good shape to get it built. I love the way that they have included photo etch in the kit. This is the Tamiya. This is the Tamiya kit. And so, of course, Tamiya, they're also in the paint selling business. So all the paints that they're going to recommend their own paints for it, obviously. But you can feel free to use. I happen to be using Tamiya paints, but that's more out of coincidence than design. Now, the front end of this should be yellow on if you're doing the Prisoner version, and I have got that painted yellow and ready to go off to the side. It's not all of that complicated to do, so I painted a lot of the bits on the tree before I even cut them off, because they're the easiest to get to at this point. And you don't have to hold it in your hand. You can just use the thing. You can use the tree and hold it that way, and that will allow you, once you've clipped it off, you only have to touch up that tiny bit that you've clipped off where you see some bare plastic. Now, they also are giving you parts to do a couple different versions of this. So finding out which parts you're ultimately going to need or not need is an issue as well. Like there is a version that uses a roll bar and a split windshield. I will not be doing that. I will be using the standard windshield on this. There is a question of putting the seat belts on it or the racing numbers. Won't be doing either of those, simply because in the again, as seen in the series, that wasn't something. The seat belts weren't an issue, and it didn't have racing numbers on it. So it's going to be a lot simpler in some respects than the rest of all of the instructions here that I do not need to bother with. So I started on the engine work yesterday. I can finish up some of that today. Also, I've got the body painted and I've got the front suspension started, so that's where we're going to pick up from. Oh, I've also got all of the tires on their rims. Okay, we're starting on the front suspension, or partially way through it, and I've just put on these nice photo etched disc brakes. Yeah, nice little added touch. I don't know how much of it you'll ever see, but it's still a nice touch. Of course, it's one of those things that if you are showing it with the wheel off, then you certainly would see it, but if you're not, then you're not. Starting to paint some of the detail in now because it's easier to do that, such as the rubber boots on either side there. Some of it I will wait until it's all together so I can see whether or not it actually is going to be seen before I concern myself with painting it. Okay, so I've got the suspension in, rear and front. It's fairly, for a sporty little car, the suspension is fairly bare bones, at least in this model. I don't know how accurate it is, but that's going to be set aside to dry because I've just touched up the paint on the visible parts. And now we're going to turn our attention to the engine block, which I had started the other day. And now I'm going to be painting the bits as I'm putting them on. I had basically given this a metallic gray overall thing, but now I've got to actually add some parts that are meant to be semi-gloss black and flat black. Of course, the belts will be flat black, but good. We'll let that dry and we'll start working on the engine. Okay, I am getting ready to take a break now. I've just put some details on the engines, and I'll have to tell you that, yes, it really does test your motor skills. Sorry, I have to amuse myself. Now that I've got these on, I'll let them dry, then I can come back and let the glue dry, and then come back and touch up the paint before we go any further. I really am trying to slow down on this because there's not all that much to do, and I don't want to get it done too quickly. I want to want to spread this out a bit, so I'm not in such a rush to rush through the whole thing. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, and as you can hear in the background, I've got plotting going on. And I have to tell you, it is because we are coming down to about a month out from Wonderfest, so everybody's getting their orders in so that they will have plenty of wares to sell at Wonderfest. So that means the plotters are plotting, and I'm getting ready to finish up the Lotus today. I think we can finish it. Having painted a lot of the sub-assemblies is really going to help, and the fact that I'm not putting in the seat belts and some of the other options for the different models of this Lotus means I'm a lot further along than I thought I was. Right now I'm down to putting in the tiny indicator, the dash decals, and then I will be able to put that in. But I wanted to catch you up on where we are on the body. I finished the engine today, again making the joke about exercising my motor skills. There were some excellently lovely bits of photo etch to go on the top of this motor, and for some reason, and I don't know why, these parts here are duplicated. They were duplicated in very finely spun metal. They are absolutely beautiful. They are the heads that go on. See if I can get that close enough up so you can see it. It's these guys right here, and those are photo etch metal sitting on a metal plate. And the nice thing about that is it makes them so finely detailed that you can set the bonnet over top of it. And I think that may have been an issue had you used a thicker styrene piece. But this engine, I'm going to touch the paint on it. Obviously, I'm going to make this model so that you can remove the bonnet on it. That's the bonnet on it. That kind of goes without saying. So I need to go in and touch those details, but
The detail, the photo etch detail on the front of the radiator is just beautiful. I can see if I can catch the, yeah, so you can catch the light there with it, to catch the chromeness of it. There you go. Just lovely work there. Nice people to me for putting that in. So now I'm starting to work on some more of the body issues and the dash. I need to get the accoutrements out for the decals. And like I said, even though I've got an order cooking in the background, I still think we should be able to get this finished today. Looking at what remains, and it's not all of that much. I don't know if I'll be able to get the whatever I'm going to do for the license plate done. That might not happen today because I think I'll need the printer for that, and the printer is otherwise occupado. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're getting down to the nitty and the gritty. A little bit of nerve-wracking work. It's only the most iconic thing on the whole car. That piece of photo etch sitting right up front underneath the hood there. That'll go right in there. Still pondering the best way to doing the license plate. That's percolating in the back of my mind while I'm doing everything else. I've been painting up some details on the clear parts, getting the headlights and everything ready. I guess now I just need to clean the decks here a little bit and do those decals for the dash. Coming up on the momentousness, I have got the dash in with the decals on. I will touch that up once it's in place. It's time to put the wheels on. That's always big. Now, what they're suggesting is you put the glue only on the tip, and that might be easier said than done. I don't know why this, what happened to this pin that, crap, just broke a wheel pin. Let's see what else I can use instead for that other one. I don't know why it had a bend in it, but when I went to bend it back straight, it snapped on me. So we're going to take a tire, put the pin through it. We're going to actually put a little bit of drop of glue rather than the tip of the pin. I think I'm going to put it on the inside here where the pin goes, and then that should let the wheel continue to spin on the axis that it needs to. Hold on, let me easier said than done. Let me get the man, they don't make this easy. That pin does not want to go in there. Okay, I think I have a solution for the pin problem. It's interesting that the back wheels didn't require them at all because of the way the back axle is set up. I wish they had done that on the front. We wouldn't need to worry about these pins, but then you wouldn't have, I guess, the steering. The pin that holds the spare tire on is the same size, but it is a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is sacrifice that pin, because I don't ever plan on taking the spare tire off of the rack where it is. So I can more or less use any old piece of tubing to put that spare tire in place. It gets a hubcap over top of it, so you're never going to see the top of it anyway. But what I need is this important T-joint at the top of this pin. So I'm going to shave this down a little bit so that it fits in. I am going to measure the size of the other pin so that I just chop a little bit off of the length of it, and then I should be able to use it because the head of it is the same size as the head of the pin that snapped. So that's all I need to do. We're down to the last bits. Really, I've got the nose on. That's the important bit. I've got the tiny little indicators on. This is the last piece that really needs to go in, and that's the dash and the pedals and all of that. and it fits into some designated slots, so that's not going to be much of a brainer to figure out. And then we just need to make sure that the bonnet can fit on top of it. So then we go about touching up the paint. So I'm going to use actually going to use CA on some of the parts of this, because it needs to. I need to be able to push it in place and set it, and not worry about letting the glue dry. Okay, it's the end of the week, and this is where we ended up. I've got two vehicles. I've got the Lotus without its license plate. Maybe we'll get that eventually, but it's careening down a nice beach. Maybe there's a big old white balloon bounding after it. But it's complete. I think it turned out pretty sharp. This is still wet, that's why it's sticking to it, but that didn't turn out too shabby for a couple of days' work. Not too bad at all. So we'll move that off to the side. Bring up the Wandering Earth Wagon cargo truck, and I came up with some appropriately snowy covered base to go on it. This will be known forever as the project of the many snows. So why not? But there you go. Promise this will be the last vehicles I do for a while. I've got all of this tire stuff out of my system. So who knows what it'll be next week, but it won't be something with tires on it. But there you go. And that's going to do it for this week. I know it's been kind of a prolonged excursion into the land of the wheeled vehicles, and it's not my normal cup of tea. But I think we got some pretty good results out of this week. We start with we finish up with the Lotus here. These tires are, when you sit it down, it's a different thing. But if you're just holding it up, they go all cattywampus on you. They're not held stably. So I try not to hold it up in midair. But there you go. All it needs is a license plate on it, and it will be ready for the village. And of course, the deformed Wandering Earth truck. Again, a beautiful truck, nice truck, lovely model. I just wish they had advertised it honestly as being a deformed vehicle. But there you go. So, until next week, when I don't know what it is exactly I'm going to be building, I've got a couple of ideas, but some of it depends on the U.S. Post, and some of it depends on me digging in the stash. So, until next week, y'all be good. Wonderfest is coming. Ooh, the excitement is building. Y'all be good. Be good to each other. Take it easy. Take care. Take a walk. We'll see you here next week.